Welcome to Cookie Clicker Class 4. Today we're going to look at making this number of slices into a more beautiful number. So we're going to go away from using Scratch's variable display. The first thing I want to do is I want to add an area where we can display the slices. So I'm going to upload a sprite that I have prepared that is simply called top bar. Right now the bar is just a random place on the screen. So let me make sure that it goes to the correct position every time we start. I have made sure that the bar has the correct dimensions. So we simply need to add the code to put it in the correct position. We want to show it always when we run. We want to set its size to 100%. And then we want it to go to the back layer so that we're sure that everything that is in the same area is on top of this bar. So let's say go to back layer, and now when I run the code, it will go to the top area just like I wanted. I have decided that we want a picture of a slice up here and then the number next to it. But we already have a sprite called slice, which is the one we use when we click the pizza and slices jump out. So I think we should move that animation to the pizza itself. The way we're going to do that is we're going to go to slice, we're going to go to costumes, and we're going to take the costume of the slice and just drag to the pizza. And we want it to jiggle when we mouse over. So now if I go to the pizza, it has two costumes. Let's switch back to the pizza. Back to the slice. And I will select when I start as a clone, this entire script, I want it to move to the pizza. So I'm going to move all of that over here on the pizza. And now it's here. It's on top of something else. So let's move it a little bit to the side. Now I want in here, in the main green flag, it says here, create clone of slice. I want that to be create clone of myself, because then this script will run. Let's see what happens if we run this now. So it's going to create a clone of the pizza, which is not exactly what I wanted. So let's go back here and make sure that we have, when I start as a clone, it should set the costume to slice. So let's see what happens now. So now slices come out where they're way too big. That's because normally on the slice we had decided that we used size 25 for the slice. So let's go back to the pizza. When I start as a clone, I want the size to be 25. And now that we have two costumes for this sprite, I think it would make sense to make sure that it always shows the pizza when we start the game, even if we accidentally switch to something else. So let's just make sure that when we start, this actually shows the pizza. So let's see. And it works just like before. Which means now we can go to the slice and we can just delete all the code from over here. And let's just make absolutely sure that it still works. Now I want this slice to be up here in the green bar. So let's start by moving this away so we can still see it. And let's make this slice visible and move it up here. We played around a little bit in class with how we wanted to look. And the first thing we decided was that we wanted to be size 40. So let's look at that. 40. And we want the position to be -205 and 150. That's where we want it. So let's put in some blocks that make sure that that happens. So we have on the backdrop, we have this broadcast when we want to set something up, and that is exactly what we want to do right now. So I'm going to go back to the slide and I'm going to listen for when I receive setup. I'm going to make sure that I'm on the correct costume. Not the backdrop, the costume, to slice. I want to show it. I want to go to my current position. Because I already placed it, I can just drag it in. It will have the correct numbers here. And I'm going to set the size to what we just decided. Set size to 40, like that. So now every time I start the game, it will be up here. Now what I want is that I want this sprite to create clones of itself that shows the number over here. The first step we need to do is we need to add costumes for each digit in our number. So I'm going to go to costumes. I'm going to choose a costume. I'm going to scroll down. And I'm going to choose 0. And when I've done that, I'm going to rename this costume to 0. This will become important later, that we chose the exact correct one. And I need to do that with every number between 0 and 9. 9 is the last one here. And I'll call this one 9. So I'll do that and then I'll get back. As you can see, I have finished adding all the numbers. Let's go back to the code for the slice. I'm on the 8 sprite right now, and that's okay. So I'm gonna repeat 4 times that I want to create a clone of myself. And then I have, when I start as a clone, I want to go to a position where I can see the digits. So let's go here and let's move some to the right. So I'm going to write -190. And let's set the sprite that I want to show as sprite number 8, as we have right now. Because when we start the script, it's going to change to the slice. So we're going to do this. And then we're going to run the code. So I have the pizza and have the 8s. Let's change this to -160. So there's 1 and it's right next to the pizza. But if I go to design mode, I can actually drag these. So we do actually have the 4 I expected, but they're on top of each other. So I want the first one to be here and the second one to be here and the third and the fourth. So let's see what we can do. I want to add a variable to the slice here. And it's going to be called digit. I start with an underscore, because it's going to be for this sprite only. Now, the original slice is going to have a version of this variable, and each clone is going to have its own version. So what I can do is here I can say set digit to 1 on the original, and then every time after I have created a clone, I'm going to change digit by 1. When I make a clone, it's going to get the clone of all the settings on the original. So the first one is going to have digit 1, the second one will have digit 2, the third one will have digit 3, and so on. So now over on my clone, instead of going to x -160 and 150, I can add that I want to go to the first digit should. Oh, I want a multiplication here. The digit times a value, and that is the first digit. I want to move 30 to the right. The next digit is going to be 2 times 30, so it's going to move 60 to the right, and so on. So I'm going to put that here, and I want my original number here. Let's see if I can take all of it here. Now we have to remember that I'm actually moving 30 immediately, so I have to subtract 30 extra here. I'm going to take that and put here. So let's see what happens when I run the script now. They are next to each other. Let's remove this variable. I don't want to look at that. Here we go. One extra thing that I forgot before on the pizza, I want to remove this show block here. Doesn't really do anything, it's just not in the code from class, so let's remove it. We do have something strange going on when I create the numbers. It's a little bit difficult to see with 4 numbers, so let's try to increase it to 10, just so we can see what's going on. Let's run the code. You see they come one by one, over. That's because in Scratch, every time we have a loop, Scratch will run once through the loop for every frame of the game. And frames are like pictures that Scratch shows really fast after each other. That's how movies work. You throw one picture and then the next and then the next. So every time we have a repeat loop or forever loop, Scratch will do one at a time. But right now I actually want to do all of this in one big frame. So I'm going to create a block here that I'm going to call init. It means initialize. We have this check mark that is run without screen refresh. What that means is the code that is inside this block here, it will run all the repeats at once in one frame. So that's a good idea anytime we have to do something a lot of times, but there's not any screen updates. If we look at the pizza, the slices that move, I move them a little bit here, change, the clone, change X and change Y, which means that the slices are moving. So I want them to wait until the next frame, until it runs through this loop again and again and again. So I did not want to do that for this run without screen refresh. But over here in the setup, I do want it to run without screen refresh. So let's take all of this code and put in here. And then I'm going to just call that block from my setup, which means that now they just appear at once. In my game right now, I have 1,000 slices, but I'm showing a big number. I don't want it to be 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1,000. I want it to just show 1,000. So I'm going to want to hide the ones that I don't use and only show the ones I use. So I only want to show 4 digits right now because I have 1,000. Luckily, every digit has its number already. The first digit says I'm number 1. The next one says I'm number 2 with this digit variable. So we can simply put an if-else block here. We can say if length of, so length of returns how many characters are there in this word. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But it actually can do the same thing with numbers. In Scratch, numbers and strings, numbers and pieces of text, are represented the same way. So 1,000 has length 4. There are 4 characters in that number. So I can say the length of slices here is 4. And I want to compare that to the digit I'm on. I want to say if the length of slices is more than digits, that means if I'm digit 1 and there are 4 digits in the number, it says if 4 is greater than 1, then obviously we want to show it because I'm the first digit and I should be shown. Otherwise hide. Let's see what happens. 3 digits are shown, but there are 4 digits in my number. That's because at the end, when we get to digit 4, it's going to say if 4 is greater than 4, then show. And 4 is not greater than 4. So we have 2 options for fixing this. We could say equals, we duplicate this, we take this, not take, we want to duplicate it as well. And then we're going to take an OR block, and I'm going to take this here and this here. So I can say if it is greater than or equal to. And this will work. But I think it looks a little bit ugly. So let's move that away and move that away. So we're gonna do something else that also looks a little bit strange, but I'm simply gonna take my length of slices and add 1 to it, because we want to say if it has 4 digits, if I say now it's 5, so I will show number 4. It's a little bit of a hack, but it works, as you can see. I still have, when I start the game, the numbers will show 8888, but I have 1000. That's because we simply set the costume to 8. I want my code here to detect what number is in the position in slices and then show that number. So we do have a block down here that says, what is the first letter of apple? It is an A. What is the second letter of apple? It is a P. But we can use that in numbers as well. So the first letter of slices right now is 1, because I have 1000. And the second letter is 0, and so on. Each digit needs to show its correct number. But that's easy because the first digit is just number 1 here, and the second digit is number 2. So I can simply take digit and put here. So now when I run this code, it will say letter digit of slices. So whatever digit it is, it will get that number. Now I can go to switch costumes. This drop down here, it has the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8, 9. This is a circle, which means I can take a variable and put in here, or I can take this one and put in here, like that. So now this one will return a 1, and it's a switch costume to 1. And we were so clever earlier that we actually called the 1, it has the name 1, which will match. So I can put this in here, and now when I start the game, it will say 1000 here. But when I click, it will not update. The reason for that is that I do this if loop here. I do that when I start as a clone, and then it stops. So I simply need to take a forever loop and wrap this if in forever, so it will just continue doing it. Let's see what happens now. I get slices, just like I thought I would. We do have a few bugs, and we'll look at those. The first bug we have is that we have some overflow. Let's switch this back to 4. The maximum number we can have with 4 digits is 9,999. So let's put 9,995 here at my beginning slices. And then I will start the game. It will show just as I expected, and then I start gathering slices. And when I get to 10,000, it will just show 1,000. And when I click more, nothing happens until I get to 1,010, and then it will show the 1 here. And that's because now there's 5 digits in the number, and we only show 4 digits. So that is something we're going to have to fix. The solution for now is just to add more digits, but we will we'll fix this next time. The next bug we have is it looks like it works, and now I buy a waitress. What is going on? The problem is that I have 9980 dot and then something. So it will show all the numbers, even the ones that are invisible, up here. This dot is an 8 right now, we do not have a dot sprite. And when we start, we switch costume to 8. Let's get rid of that. Like that. But we do not have a dot sprite. So we cannot show anything. We do not switch costumes. So it will simply keep on the costume we had initially. And in this case, it's a slice. So it looks a little bit funny. So this is the real number. And then we have the after the dot. What we're going to do about that is we're going to round. So we're just going to round. Except that is not exactly what we want to do, because if we had 9.8 slices and we round, it will show as if we had 10. And we discussed in class and decided that we want to show the whole amount of slices we have. So we always want to round down. And we have this another block here where there's a drop down, and there's one at the top here called floor, which will always round down. So I can take my slices here, and then I will add that here. And I need to do the same with the second slices in this switch costume line here. So let's grab one more copy, change it to floor, and add this one here. And now if you run the game and I buy a waitress, it goes down because I used money to buy her, to hire her. And then slowly it will count up. And when it hits 81, it will change up here, which is perfect. This is what I want. The last bit of the class was used for talking about how we want the game to look. We looked at some different games on Scratch, and we looked at Cookie Clicker, and we decided how to design the waitress, where to put the numbers, and how we want big numbers to be represented, so we don't have this problem with 10 digits and more than 10 digits. There's really no upper limit to how many digits we would have on the screen otherwise. I also want, just because we did in class, we don't need this slices variable on the screen anymore. So let's go over here and remove it. We still have slices per click and slices per second. Next time we're going to look at what are we going to do about all the numbers we have. So right now we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 numbers that we want to look good. But we're going to add more buildings, for lack of a better term. And we don't want to have to write this code every time. This code is going to get long. So we're going to add a sprite that is in charge of beautifying the numbers. Just like we have one calculator that is in charge of calculating slices, we're going to have one sprite whose only job is to make sure that numbers look good. One last thing. Because we're going to put kilo, K for kilo, and M for mega, and G for giga, and T for tera after the numbers. It doesn't make any sense to call them digits anymore. It's going to be characters instead. So I'm going to rename this variable. The shorthand in computer science for character is char, C-H-A-R. So I'm just going to call it that. See you next week.